Hello, everyone. Hi. My name is Sophie Dawes. I am the Southern Arizona Region Coordinator for Poetry Out Loud. On behalf of the University of Arizona Poetry Center, welcome to the 2023 Southern Arizona Poetry Out Loud Regional Finals Competition. We are thrilled to have you here with us today as we celebrate yet another season of wonderful recitation. We are especially thrilled to have you here today because this is the first in-person season of Poetry Out Loud since the pandemic. Yeah. I would like to take a moment and acknowledge my colleague, Hema Ornelas, the Poetry Center's Education Programs Manager, for the incredible guidance and support she has shown me and so many other folks in the Poetry Out Loud community. Hema, will you give us a wave? Thank you. And now, allow me to introduce our wonderful host for today, Logan Phillips, who will help keep us on schedule and keep the show moving. Logan Phillips is author of Sonora and Strange, West End Press / University of New Mexico Press, 2015. He holds an MFA in creative writing from the University of Arizona, where his recent work won a 2021 Academy of American Poets Prize. A serial collaborator, Phillips has worked on a wide range of performance, music, and community-centered education projects in the US, Mexico, Colombia, and beyond. He lives in Tucson, Arizona with his family. Please join me in welcoming Logan. Thank you.
Thanks, Sophie. Hey, everybody. How's it going? We ready to hear some amazing poetry? All right, me too. I love Poetry Out Loud. I've been involved with this program in just about every way you can be, except being a youth competitor, because they won't let me do that anymore. But just about everything else I've done, and except this also, actually, now come to think of it, I haven't hosted before, so happy to be doing that. Poetry is that art of putting into words that which otherwise doesn't fit into words, and provides a way to widen our worlds individually and collectively. And it is very hard to have a poetry competition because poetry is, of course, subjective. And yet, here we are. Making it a competition, I think, makes it fun, provides a little bit of stakes, brings us together. But, as they say in Poetry Slam, the points and the winning are not the point, but the point is the poems. And in this case, also the point is our students who are here, who are celebrating today. So for anything else, I just want to emphasize that. But Poetry Out Loud, as you all probably know, is a national program that encourages the study of poetry by offering free educational materials and a dynamic recitation competition to high schools all across the country. It's created by the National Endowment for the Arts and the Poetry Foundation, and Poetry Out Loud is administered in partnership with the state's arts agencies. And so we are therefore very grateful to the Arizona Commission on the Arts, the Arts Learning and Evaluation, the Arizona Commission on the Arts for their continued support and partnership. Let's make a round of applause for them real quick. Yeah, they do so much good work. So the National Poetry Out Loud program uses a wide base to reach many students and starts at the classroom level. And then it moves up from there. Winners from the classroom level advance to school-wide competitions, then to a regional, a state, and ultimately to the national finals. So the top 3 winners of the Southern Arizona Region semifinals, this event today, will proceed to the Arizona State Finals, which, for the first time ever, will be held in Tucson, Arizona. And that's right. Good job, Hema. And that's happening the 11th of March right here, actually. So mark your calendars. That's going to be an awesome event, in person as well. And so one winner there will receive $200 and the chance to compete for a sizable college scholarships at the national finals in Washington, D.C. That's exciting. So also I want to shout out our DJ. This is our DJ over here, Adrian Provenzano, a middle school teacher by day and DJ by day as well. And I'm so excited there's a DJ here because you all know that I love DJs. So All right. So today's competition features performances from high school students at Combs High School, Desert View High School, Flowing Wells High School, Rio Rico High School, Saurita High School, St. Augustine Catholic High School, and the Gregory School. The students performing today have been supported by wonderful people in our community, truly people who go above and beyond for our students. Classroom teachers, school administrators, parents, guardians, fellow students, poets, performance coaches who have all come together to share their skills and talents in helping students discover poetry and prepare for this competition. So let's give all of these folks who are holding up our students a round of applause, please. Truly does take a community, so thank you for stepping up and being that community. All right, and of course, the stars of this show, for all of the hard work that they have put in to get to this point in the competition, to even make it here today, let's give all of our students a round of applause. That's right. So like I said at the top, judging poetry recitation is very difficult, but we have some really all-star lineup of folks to help us do it today. So these exceptional folks, I'm going to read their introductions, and I'm going to ask them to give a little wave to the crowd as I do. First up, we have Rachel Mindell. Rachel Mindell is a poet, teacher, and tech writer who grew up in Tucson. She's the author of 3 chapbooks, and her work has appeared in literary journals, including Black Warrior Review, Foglifter, Denver Quarterly, and Gertrude. Rachel holds an MFA in poetry and an MA in literature from the University of Montana. For the last 5 years, she has been delighted to serve as a Poetry Out Loud coach. Rachel is a diehard Poetry Center fangirl and mother to a 3-year-old aspiring stegosaurus. Yes, Dr. Treya Allen. Dr. Treya Allen serves as the Associate Dean of Students with the Dean of Students Office. She's committed to the empowerment and access for all students. Dr. Allen is a proud first-generation undergrad and graduate student. As a triple alumna of Northern Arizona, Dr. Allen completed a BA in Liberal Studies Sociology, a Master's in Education and Human Relations Counseling, and an EDD in Education Leadership. Her research centers on Black education in the U.S. Southwest, Black women and girls in education, and the creation of African American studies programs. Her favorite place is in the middle of a book stack in any book collection, library, or bookstore in the world. I feel that. All right, Dr. Stephanie Troutman is a Black feminist scholar, mother, and first-generation college student. She's the Associate Professor of Emerging Literacies and Rhetoric Composition in the Teaching of English program in the English Department here at the University of Arizona. A former high school and middle school grades public school teacher, Stephanie is a scholar activist who has been recognized across a variety of community and campus spaces for her mentorship, student advocacy, and social justice leadership. She's co-author of the 2018 book, Narratives of Family Assets, Community Gifts, and Cultural Endowments, Reimagining the Invisible Knapsack from Lexington Press, and co-editor of the forthcoming book, Race and Ethnicity in U.S. Television. Her research has been published in the Journal of Girlhood Studies, the Journal of Race, Ethnicity, and Education, Meridians, Feminism, Race, and Transnationalism, and the Journal for Literacy and Social Responsibility. All right. Yeah. Adela Licona, right here, is the founder and lead consultant of the Art of Change Agency, supporting critical voices and creative visions for sustainable practice, structural change, and social transformation. She's the author of zines in Third Space, Radical Cooperation, and Borderlands Rhetoric, and Associate Professor Emeritus English at the University of Arizona, where she served as a founding member and vice chair of the Social, Cultural, and Critical Theory graduate minor, and as affiliated faculty in Gender and Women's Studies, Institute for LGBT Studies, Institute for the Environment and Mexican American Studies. Adela is a writer, artist, editor, and committed collaborator who has developed the concept of art as a coalitional gesture, which focuses on art as moving matter. It is a call to relational proximities, radical hospitality, and informed collective action. It is a commitment to build comunidades of care, share resources, and to co-create a world we want and can live in. She is editor emeritus of Feminist Foundations and serves as the advisory editorial boards for Feminist Formations, Art Plus Feminism, and Border Links, a liberatory border immersion and popular education project in Tucson, Arizona. Please give all of these judges a round of applause, please. Helping our judges is the Poetry Center's K-12 Education Programs Manager, Ren Goblersch. They will tally the scores throughout the competition. Many thanks, Ren. We all know math is an important part of competition, so thank you for helping out with that. All right, y'all, so the competition is going to work like this. We're going to have 2 rounds. In each round, all participating performers are going to recite 1 poem. Between rounds 1 and 2, we will have a special guest performer, Shervana Givens, who will give a brief reading, which I'm very excited about. At the end of 2 rounds, the scores will be tabulated and 3 winners will be selected. These 3 winners will be continuing on to the state competition. A few reminders about our performance. Please silence all cell phones, watches, earrings, necklaces, smart shoes, and any other electronic devices they may have invented well before since this was written. We ask that you refrain from flash photography or entering the aisles to take any type of photographs or video recordings during the recitations. So, and this is an important one. We invite you to show your appreciation and enthusiasm following the student recitations by using the American Sign Language or ASL sign for applause. To do so, you can raise both hands and then rotate each quickly from right to left. Let's practice that. That's how we're going to clap between the performers. Got it? I'm not going to kick you out for cheering, but this is how we're going to cheer, all right? We will pause and applause for all of the performers at the end of each round. Just works a lot better that way, all right? Lastly, please refrain from speaking with the judges until the student finalists have been announced. All right, it's time for round 1. So, round 1, we're going to go in reverse alphabetical order. And so I'm going to ask our DJ to go ahead and play some music, and we're going to play music in between the performers. So, are we ready, y'all? Let's make some noise one more time before we're not allowed to. We can make noise this time. All right, good. Get it out, get it out. All right, in round 1, representing Flowing Wells High School, Finn Thompson.
A Birthday by Christina Rossetti. My heart is like a singing bird whose nest is in a watered shoot. My heart is like an apple tree whose boughs are bent with thick-set fruit. My heart is like a rainbow shell that paddles in halcyon sea. My heart is gladder than all these because my love is come to me. Raise me a dais of silk and down, hang it with vair and purple dyes, carve it in doves and pomegranates and peacocks with 100 eyes, work it in gold and silver grapes, in leaves and silver fleur-de-lis, because the birthday of my life is come, my love is come to me.
Excellent. Thank you, Finn. So this is the moment in between the performers. We're going to give our judges a moment to do their thing and tabulate our scores. Raise your hand if this is your first time being to a poetry event this year. All right. Good. Raise your hand if this is your first time at the Poetry Center. Awesome. Yes. We're so lucky to have the Poetry Center here in Tucson, Arizona. There's actually only about 6 libraries in the country that focus only on poetry, and we happen to have the best one here in Tucson. We're so lucky. I mean, Tucson could be awesome and we could not have this and Tucson would still be awesome, but we have this. So I encourage you to check it out. It'll be open between rounds, I believe. You can peek your head in and say hi to all the poems in there. and it's open every week as well. All right. Next up, second in the round, representing Saurita High School, Isabel Taran.
The Fair Singer by Andrew Marvell. To make a final conquest of all me, love did compose so sweet an enemy, in whom both beauties to my death agree, joining themselves in fatal harmony. That while she with her eyes my heart does bind, she with her voice might captivate my mind. I could have fled from one but singly fair. My disentangled soul itself might save, breaking the curl trammels of her hair. But how should I avoid to be her slave, whose subtle art invisibly can wreath my fetters of the very air I breathe? It had been easy fighting in some plain, where victory might hang in equal choice. But all resistance against her is vain, who has the advantage both of eyes and voice. And all my forces needs must be undone, she having gained both the wind and the sun.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Isabel. One of the things I love about poetry out loud is, in my experience being a poet myself and being a coach, the opportunity to go into a classroom and speak to young people about poetry. And I love the fact that over the many years that I've been doing this, from when I was in high school myself to now, when I'm very much not in high school, poetry continues to serve as a tool to not only understand the world around us, but understand ourselves. And, you know, adolescence being that kind of crossroads or borderlands of a lifetime, it really seems like poetry is one of those tools that can be especially important for young people at that point. And so whether it's other folks' poems from the canon or from the present day, like these poems, or whether it's poems they themselves write, I think it's just such an important outlet that we have as a society and as a culture. And so I do think poetry is very useful, although poems don't have to do anything. They can just be. But I do think that that is one of the greatest gifts that poetry gives us. Representing Desert View High School, Anissa Sanchez.
The Last Laugh by Wilfred Owen. "Oh, Jesus Christ, I'm hit," he said, and died whether he vainly cursed or prayed indeed. The bullets chirped in vain, vain, vain. Machine guns chuckled, tut-tut, tut-tut, and the big gun guffawed. Another sighed, "Oh, mother, mother, dad," then smiled at nothing, childlike, being dead. And the lofty shrapnel cloud leisurely gestured fool, and the splinters spat and tittered. "My love," one moaned, love languid seemed his mood, till slowly lowered his whole face kissed the mud, and the bayonet's long teeth grinned, rabbles of shells hooted and groaned, and the gas hissed.
All right, next up, representing St. Augustine Catholic High School, Michelle Ruiz.
You, If No One Else, by Tino Villanueva, translated by James Hogard. Listen, you, who transformed your anguish into healthy awareness. Put your voice where your memory is, you who swallowed the afternoon dust. Defend everything you understand with words. You, if no one else, will condemn with your tongue the erosion that each disappointment brings. You, who saw the images of disgust growing, will understand how time devours the destitute. You, who gave yourself your own commandments, know better than anyone why you turned your back on your town's toughest limits. Don't hush. Don't throw away the most persistent truth, as our hard-headed brethren sometimes do. Remember well what your life was like. Cloudiness and slick mud after a drizzle. Flimsy windows the wind kept rattling in winter. And that unheated slab, dwelling, where coldness crawled up in your clothes. Tell how you were able to come to this moment, to unbar history's doors, to see your early years, your people. The others, name the way rebellion's calm spirit has served you, and how you came to unlearn the lessons of that teacher. Remember how, from the first emptiness, you started saving yourself and asked yourself what? After all, these words are only good for this round hour now, where your voice strikes time.
So as you found your way to the Poetry Center today, you might have noticed what a beautiful and kind of uncommon building this is. And it's to me, it's always been such a, not only a temple of poetry, but of light and air and space and people. And it wasn't always this way, actually, but like all good things, the Poetry Center has a long history. Started in 1960. First poet who ever visited and kind of kicked it off was Robert Frost himself. And Ruth Walgreen Steffen was the founder of the Poetry Center. And since that time, since 1960, actually over 1,000 poets have visited the Poetry Center in Tucson, Arizona. And so it's not only the books that are here, but also the living and breathing poets who come here and share their words. And one thing that I've always really loved about the Poetry Center is all of 1,000, pretty much, of those poets were recorded in their presentation while they were here. And that archive is publicly available on the Poetry Center's website, which is such a cool thing because we all know that artists evolve over time. And yet, when an artist came here, they were at a particular time or times in their career, in their life, in their concerns, in their publication history. And you can see, a poet read, like I love, one of my favorite poets is Dr. Ofelia Cepeda, who is Tahana Atom poet and professor here at the university. And her archive has, 1991, 1998, 2001, 2011. And so you can see the evolution of someone's work and hear their voice, which I think is so important. And for the later poets' video as well. So you can find that online. And much more about that as well. All right, next up, representing Rio Rico High School, Miren Miranda.
I Felt a Funeral in My Brain by Emily Dickinson. I felt a funeral in my brain, and mourners to and fro kept treading, till it seemed that sense was breaking through. And when they all were seated, a service, like a drum, kept beating, beating, till I thought my mind was going numb. And then I heard them lift a box and creak across my soul with those same boots of lead again. Then space began to toll as all the heavens were a bell, and being but an ear, and I and silence, some strange race, wrecked, solitary, here. And then a plank in reason broke, and I dropped down and hit a world at every plunge, and finished knowing. Then
So I mentioned that it wasn't always so with this beautiful building, and though the Poetry Center, I think, was probably a beautiful place from the beginning, it actually was housed for many years and was most known for a long time as a twin pair of cottages right over here. There were two very small places, one that was housed the entire library at that point, fit in this one little cottage, and the other one was used as a residence for the poets who would come to visit. And now the Poetry Center's collection, I don't think, would fit in anywhere that could be reasonably called a cottage. And in fact, they recently just completed a new campaign to increase the space of the archives and the shelving to be able to house the growing collection for the decades to come. But that second house, with the cottage where the poet stayed, is very well-known space, and now the new modern version of that is just on the other side of that wall right over there. So all of the famous poets and writers that come still get to stay right here, which is a pretty cool thing. Representing the Gregory School, Sam Mayer.
Summer by Chun Chun. You are the ice cream sandwich connoisseur of your generation. Blessed are your floral shoulderalls, your deeply pink fanny pack with travel-size lint roller, just in case. Level of splendiferous in your outfit. 200. Types of invisible pain stemming from adolescent disasters in classrooms, locker rooms, and quite often Toyota Camrys. At least 10,000. You are not a Jigglypuff, not yet a Wigglytuff. Reporters and fathers call your generation the worst, which really means queer kids who could go online and learn that queer doesn't have to mean disaster or dead. Instead, queer means splendiferously you, and you means someone who knows that common flavors for ice cream sandwiches in Singapore include red bean, yam, and honeydew. Your powers are great, are growing. One day, you will create an online personality quiz that also freshens the breath. The next day, you will tell your father you were wrong to say that I had to change, to make me promise I would, to make me promise and promise.
Representing Combs High School, Maya Akins.
Truth is, I would like to escape myself by Noor Al-Grawi. Truth is, I would like to escape myself, detach my body from my skin, peel it layer by layer to uncover beneath the surface of petals and thorns piled up year after year who I am and who I want to be. I want to be the flower that grows in dirt, the feather that flies free between the cracks of fences. A wise woman once told me, don't worry about you. Worry about who you could be. I want to be the woman who sits on a desk and writes pieces of oceans, rivers, on a white space, in a place where imagination has no border.
All right, that is the end of round one. Let's make some noise for all of our students. Give them a big round of applause. That's right. Next, allow me to introduce our featured performer. Shervana Givens is a Black Latino writer who resides in Tucson, Arizona. Shervana writes about her experiences with grief, queer love, and heartbreak. Shervana encapsulates her style in this collection of poems and states, I write not for myself, but for those who desire a space to belong to, a place to call home. Please join me in welcoming Shervana to the mic.
Hi, I'm going to read some poems for y'all. Read this after August or when the band name stops sounding like obituaries. I met James our sophomore year of high school, knowing about the creation of the earth, the names of the particles in the sky, to the types of flowers thrown off stage by Morrissey in 1984. James could always find something fascinating to tell you that you wouldn't have known before he opened his mouth. On my last day at ALC, or the Alternative Learning Center at Buena High School, I met with James for the last time. Now, the ALC was not for delinquents or troubled youth, but for kids who made a few wrong choices during high school and still wanted to graduate on time. We were supposed to graduate on time. But this is not an ode to the ALC, but an ode to my friend, where we truly met for the first time, talking about the Smiths for what seemed like forever. My grandpa called my cell phone to let me know he'd been waiting outside the ALC for 20 minutes under the orange atmosphere. Right before I left, James created a list of bands to listen to on the way home. As he handed me the piece of paper, our hands met for the first and last time, but neither of us knew it. A few moments later, I waved James goodbye as he stood outside the ALC. I wish I had remembered the grin that only James could make. Instead, I looked at the sky and the way it danced along his silhouette without ever needing permission. Finding myself in an empty parking lot in our small town, I listened to the song James wanted me to hear. I waited for the lamp posts to turn on, but when they finally did, it scared me. And when the song was over, I thought to myself, wow, that James kid is something else. Because how could a person figure out the mechanics of my brain through a 3-minute song and tell me what I truly dream of? But that was James, spunky and sporadic, and I wonder if I would still be talking to him now, and I wonder what song James' parents sing when they think of him. And before James was hit by that bus, I wonder if he had gotten the chance to belt out his favorite chorus one last time, even if the aux cord disconnected from the car or if the radio crumpled in the collision. That does not stop the sound. The song lasts forever, just traveling further and further along down the highway past the high school. 6 years later, and sometimes I can hear it when I'm laying in bed at night, and every lyric I've come to appreciate because of him finds its way back to me. I wish we became music friends like James said we would be, or that I could have borrowed my Morrissey CD, but I'm especially sorry for how things in life turn out for us. But one day I will catch up, and when I finally do, I will ask him what it was like to be away for such a long time, and I will let him know I could hear it, and that I was listening all along. Oh, thank you. Thank you. This one is called Keno Parkway. Last year, I drove all the way to Keno Parkway, a landmark for those young enough to sit behind the wheel of a beat-up 2007 Toyota. It's my first car, and I drive deeper into the desert with some of my closest friends. Flamboyant bodies are packed against my armoire of possessions piled in the back seat. Loud as the static that passes through the bones of this car, but no one seems to mind. I want to ask my friends if they have ever been loved past the night, but why would I pose such an uneventful question as important as a canine's tooth? We have no time for such things when we are this invincible, when everything we feel is a concoction of memories from the lives we have already lived. When we are teenagers, we are not heated because we're seeing this world for the first time. Now we have seen this all 1,000 times, and we know what is to come. We know the heartbreak is inevitable, that the giggles and drinks shared at a party on a school night will fade into oblivion, and that our baby teeth might as well have not existed to begin with. So why must we grow so attached to what we will inevitably lose in the end? It must be tiring as hell to wake up every morning until 70 years have passed. The snacks you ate as a kid do not taste the same, and your high school reunion is now a crowded graveyard, filled with ghosts you never thought you'd see after those bleachers emptied themselves when football season was over. You look down on your grandkids who wear weird outfits like tennis shoes with tight cocktail dresses at the tender age of 15, and you wonder why their parents haven't looked them in the eyes in years. But I don't want that life. I don't want a graduation present or a retirement plan. I want to be this age forever, but I don't want to have to die to achieve this goal. That's something I can finally say after all these years of self-loathing, trying to find ways to abandon my body, looking for faulty wiring or a misprint, an excuse to throw myself away. I want to live. I want the sun to etch freckles into my skin and create a constellation that would have never existed without me, where I'm suspended above a world that snows and rains. Up here, my joints will never ache, and I'm a perfect module for those who do not believe in anything, not even themselves. I want to kiss someone and know that our lips have the ability to sing the same song. I cannot wait to brush my teeth every night over and over again until my toothbrush loses its shape, softens its harsh edges, when all the news stations sign off for the last time. I cannot wait to lose myself in the end of it all, in the static from the TV, filling the walls of my brain. By the college. On the 5th Tuesday of 2019, my first car accident awaits me. My best friend is riding in the passenger seat. The air conditioning jumps onto our blemished faces, cupping our cheeks in its hands and slicking back our hair for us. I look towards the distant green light by the college that I thought was for me. I could swear it on my mother's grave, but who am I to wake her up after all these years just for her to see this mess I've made here before we get hit by that green buggy. For a split second, I see my best friend riding beside me. But this isn't the friend I've grown accustomed to, the one with impeccable makeup skills, master of bong hits, wearing dimples the size of craters. She's the one I met on the playground for the first time, the shy desert child, her growth spurt-esque bangs covering her eyes from the burning sun, with the dirty socks shoved into tennis shoes faded from the previous school year. Her overly chapped lips begged to play on the jungle gym with me, like she knew we were meant to be in each other's lives. It was 2005, the start of school, and the anniversary videos from 9/11 would play on the bulky TV in our art class. We were not allowed to be excused from the classroom as we watched an airplane crash and set fire to a building while human beings jumped out of the windows. Our curriculum taught us that watching unedited videos of this tragedy would somehow tell us if we were more of a Picasso or a Van Gogh, as if we'd be able to create the next masterpiece from witnessing a horrible event such as this. It's 2019 now, and I know the car accident just happened, totaling both cars, and I know we both survived, but I still wake up at night hearing Christina's last breath. In these dreams, she never climbs out of the wreckage. I cannot pry open her door after I try for the 4th time, the 5th. In these dreams, I never get to say I'm sorry as her toddler grabs her swollen ankle. This life is so fleeting. Why did I ever want to leave the comfort I received when I lay on the ground and the grass would kiss my face, or the wind that blew and never stopped loving me? Yet here I am, wanting to be forgotten. Please let me go back to those schoolyard days. Back then, it didn't matter what time I got off of the school bus, because the sun always shined the brightest, right on my own doorstep, and no one else's. Back then, I could hear the news of Hurricane Katrina blaring in my grandparents' den after I walked home from the bus stop. The number of people who went missing that day in New Orleans surpassed the number of popsicle sticks I could bring when we celebrated 100 days of school. But the number of steps taken to rescue families from the roofs of their flooded homes were about as many steps as it took my mom to teach me to tie my shoes. But there is nothing about that school year that makes it more tragic than others. The experiences we go through are not ours to blame. It was not our fault that no kids in my elementary school were allowed to watch the Golden Compass, yet they were nailed to the pews every Sunday morning. Maybe the only route to seeking our own truth is the same as sneaking into an R-rated movie, and maybe the only way to feel something for anyone else is to feel nothing at all for ourselves. I've looked at my life and all the pain I've gone through and asked why God hates me. But I have never looked into the eyes of someone who loves me dearly and asked, why does God love me? Sometimes, at least long enough for this gentle gaze to last. Yes, I am thankful to be alive, but I know I could never be God's favorite. So I ask myself why he spared me that night when there were countless others who never got the chance to turn the ignition off and open the door. Thank you. An ode to a stranger in the Alps. Snow that finally sticks to the ground, a car ride with the windows rolled up because the weather called for it, called for the excavation of our young adult lives. How Phoebe made me dream of a world that I never knew could exist. A soft, angelic voice carried me to sleep, saying, come here, come home. For when I listen to Phoebe Bridgers, I am closer to a home that has no name, no mailing address, one that only exists between Phoebe and her words. And when we listen, she's inviting us in for a cup of tea filled with lavender and liminality, found between the railings that drive us up the Bisbee, Arizona mountains at 2 a.m. on a winter night. The snow so clear you roll the window down for a second. One snowflake falls onto your hand, but it's gone before you even see it. So I want to write an ode to a stranger in the Alps, although it may just be a child cloaked in their bed sheets, a trusty dog, and a rainbow in the sky. But that did not stop the creation of a masterpiece that continues to let me know it's okay. For I did not know there could be beauty in the loneliness, didn't know there could be love hidden between these mountains that protect me. The same way she didn't know we'd be listening, but she sang along anyway, and I think that's got to count for something in a world bustling with sound. Thank you guys so much. I have one final poem. I wrote this poem when I was in high school, so around 10 years ago. This is my final poem. It's called Fredericksburg. The nights were cold, my legs were short, and the street names that I could remember were the extent of my universe. When the moon was out, my mom would take my brothers and I for a walk around our Virginia town. This is where we would call out different constellations, switching off from shouting the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper, or repeating lines from whatever cartoon show we had watched that day. I would take deep breaths, hold them in, and then exhale through my mouth, trying to see my breath like a dragon sees its smoke. Back then, I thought it was my actual soul releasing its hold from my body, thinking I was powerful enough to hold on to something this incredible. But I was only a kid then. Nearing the end of our walks, we'd reach a 7-Eleven, almost illuminating in front of us. I'd walk inside, hear the cashier welcome us to this heaven-like convenience store, where I would walk over to the slushie machine and get a blue raspberry slushie every single time. I didn't care about the brain freeze. I didn't care that I was too short to reach the nozzle and that someone else had to release it for me. I did not care because this is where I could taste my youth, and all the years filled with the limited knowledge I had were staring at me through a plastic red straw. But I was only a kid then. This was before my brothers and I grew out of our clothes and before our heads hit the ceilings. This is before we grew up. Although I have forgotten the street name I grew up on, I can still taste the sweet raspberry in the back of my throat, and I can see my childhood play out before my eyes. From the car headlights passing us at night, to my mother calling my name, her voice called so smoothly, it echoes through my mind. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Shervana. All right, so we're going to go ahead and take a 10-minute intermission. We'll let you know when that time is up. We'll listen to some music in the meantime as well. When we return, we'll begin our second round of recitations. Thanks so much. See you in 10.
Honest. Just off wave, just on wave, just off wave, just on wave, just off wave, just on wave, just off wave. Ask me if I'm paid, just off wave, just on wave, just off wave, just on wave, just off wave, just on wave, just off wave.
More like a parade. We're out here riding. I'm happy and I'm paid. If you try to find me, you know where I stay. I'm pretty familiar. Out here, everywhere I play. Wasn't a party. More like a parade. We're out here riding. I'm happy and I'm paid. If you try to find me, you know where I stay. I'm pretty familiar. Out here, everywhere I play. Just on wave, just off wave, just on wave, just off wave, just on wave, just off wave. Ask me if I'm paid, just off wave, just on wave, just off wave, just on wave, just off wave.
Welcome back, everybody. We're going to go ahead and begin round 2. We have 7 poets in the second round, just like in the first round. And then after this round, we'll take another quick intermission while we calculate the scores. And then after that, we'll have some student interviews before we announce the winners and award prizes. So in round 2, representing Flowing Wells High School is Finn Thompson.
Son, daughter, by Kai Conradi. In a dream, my dad fell from the top of a steep, white mountain down into a blue crevasse, like the space between two waves, where the light shines through just enough to tell you you will miss this life dearly. The falling took years. I could hear him moving through air, and then finally, nothing. In another dream, my dad was an angel, his see-through body dangling in the air, floating above me, face shimmery like tinfoil. And I cried and cried when he told me, I can't come back to Earth now, not ever. When my dad told me, you will always be my daughter, maybe it was like that. Will I be allowed to come back to Earth and be your son?
You know, one thing I love about Poetry Out Loud is not only the poetry, but the opportunity to engage young folks in the act of public speaking, right? I remember talking in high schools for years in the work I would do in outreach in this position and helping young folks realize that, you know, apart from the many opportunities of poetry, that there will be a time in all of our lives when how we say what we say will change everything. You know, that happens to us regularly. And so I'm grateful for a program like Poetry Out Loud to actually help prepare our young people for those moments, right? And when we say, you know, it's so common, oh, I'm terrified of public speaking, well, how often do we get to practice that, right? Most of the time we hardly ever get to practice it at all. So why would we expect ourselves to be good at something we've never tried, right? And so I like the idea of kind of normalizing this sort of work, because it is something that will come up in our lives in one way or another. So why not get ready for it? Representing Saurita High School is Isabel Taran.
I Am Trying to Break Your Heart by Kevin Young. I am hoping to hang your head on my wall. In shame, the slightest taxidermy thrills me. Fish forever leaping on the living room wall. Paperweights made from skulls of small animals. I want to wear your smile on my sleeve and break your heart like a horse or its leg. Weeks of being bucked off, then all at once you're mine. Put me down. I want to call you thine. To tattoo mercy along my knuckles, I assassin down the avenue. I hope to have you forgotten by noon. To know you by your knees, policed by prayer. Loneliness is a science. Consider the taxidermist's tender hands. Trying to keep from losing skin, the bobcat grin of the living.
Representing Desert View High School is Anissa Sanchez.
April Midnight by Arthur Symons. Side by side through the streets at midnight, roaming together through the tumultuous night of London in the miraculous April weather. Roaming together under the gaslight, day's work over, how the spring calls to us here in the city, calls to the heart from the heart of a lover. Good it is to be here together, good to be roaming, even in London, even at midnight. Lover-like, in a lover's gloaming, you the dancer and I the dreamer, children together, wandering lost in the nights of London in the miraculous April weather.
So in case you're not familiar, all of the poems that the students are reciting today come from a repository of poems published by Poetry Out Loud. So not just any poem is eligible, but there's a database of poems. It was once published as a book, but now there's an app for that. And that's actually a good thing because they continue to add poems all the time. And that's one thing I love about this program is it's not just the canon, right? It's that plus contemporary poems. And so, you know, in the competition today, you're hearing poems from all different eras, from all different authors, all right side by side. And so just like going through the Poetry Center and opening books at random and having those poems be in conversation with each other, this combination of poems has never ever happened before, right? If you think about that. So that's actually a pretty cool thing to have all this work put together in this way. And it takes a community to do that, right? When you look through the repository of all these thousands of poems, each student is going to be attracted to choosing a different one, and then we get to hear them all together. So it's a cool cross-section of interests and really the work. All right. Representing St. Augustine Catholic High School is Michelle Ruiz.
Ghost Dance by Sarah Crow Little Russell. 270 ghost dancers died, dreaming that humanity would drown in a flood of white sins. Then the renewed earth would reclaim city and town, leaving only ghost dancers and those who lived by nature's laws. History books say the threat is gone. The ghost dance died with the ancestors. Vavoka and his sacred dream were destroyed. Each time it rains, I go out to the sidewalk where the tree roots have broken the concrete, listening to the waters whispering. It is coming soon.
Representing Rio Rico High School is Miran Miranda.
Respiration by Jamal May. A lot of it lives in the trachea, you know? But not so much that you won't need more muscle. The diaphragm, a fist clenching at the bottom. Inhale. So many of us are breathless, you know? Like me, kneeling to collect the pottery shards of a houseplant my elbow has nudged into oblivion. What if I sigh and the black earth beneath me scatters like insects running from my breath? Am I a god then? Am I insane because I worry about the disassembling of earth regularly? I walk more softly now, into gardens or up the steps of old houses, with impatience stuffed in their window boxes. When it's you standing there, with a letter, or voice, or face full of solemn news, will you hold your breath before you knock?
Representing the Gregory School is Sam Mayer.
Edgar Allan Poe is reached at the Baltimore harbor by the shadows that pursue him. By Fernando Valverde. Translated by Carolyn Forche. And the cloud that took the form, when the rest of heaven was blue, of a demon in my view. Edgar Allan Poe. They always followed you, disdainful dogs. They made you lose your balance. You had to shout blasphemies into shadows, trying to put out the din of their barking. Other times, it was advisable to talk and try to calm them. Whispers can be more convincing and stop them on any corner so as to continue alone. Solitude is a walk through the streets of Baltimore. You could never free yourself. Those shadows were growing. Crows perched on the statues with eyes fixed on the emptiness of a demon who dreams. To you, who were on the edge of a dismal midnight, watching specters of dying embers on the ground, To you, who tasted sorrow, who drank it like an exquisite liqueur, I come close, and I look at you, trying to find you on the other side of the stone carved by misfortune, the same as happens with beauty. Never again will the silver bells ring. The ships that now arrive at the port of Baltimore are filled with people too frightened to speak. They carry a stone in place of the heart. They do not see these shadows that roam the streets, these shadows that are neither men, nor women, nor beasts. Perhaps dogs, or birds, or words in the beaks of the birds, or in their jaws. When they pass, they are nothing more than the sea breeze from which they come. There is a silence now about silence in the shadows. They bite like words in place of the heart.
You know, Poetry Out Loud has been going on since 2005 now, so it's not necessarily a new thing. But still it happens that, you know, when I talk to folks about the program, they're like, oh, wow, people actually read poems out loud? And it still sometimes seems like it's some sort of a new thing somehow, when really, you know, if we think about humans and culture and how it works, actually the printing press is the new thing. And the way that stories have been told forever is in this way, through sharing and through voice and through breath. And so I love this idea of taking poems out of books and giving them breath, right? And remember that, you know, there's this cliche, another cliche that comes up with poetry is that poetry is the work of like a solitary genius, right? Alone in their room. And though the poetry does require, you know, some solitude and some silence, really poetry doesn't exist without the reader, doesn't exist without the listener. And so I'm fond of saying that poetry both creates and requires community to exist. And that's what we're creating here today. And so you all are a part of that. So don't think that just because you're sitting there and that you've got off the hook, that you're not active in this exercise here, because without you listening, without you witnessing, this wouldn't be possible. So know that it's a two-way street. Representing Combs High School is Maya Akins.
Invisible Children by Mariana Llanos. Invisible children fall through the cracks of the system, like Alice in the rabbit hole, but these children won't find an eat me cake or a drink me bottle. They won't wake up on the lap of a loving sister. They'll open their eyes on the hand of a monster called negligence, who will poke them with its sharp teeth and bait them with its heartless laughter. Like a wild thing in a wild rumpus, but the children won't awake to the smell of a warm supper, nor will they find a purple crayon to draw an escape door or a window. Instead, they'll make a mirror of a murky puddle on a city street, which won't tell them they're beautiful, but it'll show their scars, as invisible to others as these children are.
All right, let's give our students a round of applause. That is the end of round 2. Congratulations to everyone. What a fantastic set of performances. So we are going to take another quick 10-minute intermission. This is our last intermission. When we return, one of my favorite parts of the show, I get to interview the student performers, and we actually get to hear their words, and I'm excited for that. So we'll take a quick 10-minute intermission. Be right back with you. Thanks. All right. Welcome back, everybody. I can't imagine this event without two things. Snacks. I mean, I'm so glad there's snacks out there. Can we make some round of noise for the Poetry Center for thinking ahead and feeding us? And also the music. The music has been so awesome. Thank you. Round of applause for our DJ. Cool. So I have the chance to talk to the performers right now while their scores are being calculated, and I'm so excited to talk to them. But first I want to say this is not part of the competition. I'm actually just sincerely curious about you, so please don't worry about it. But if y'all want to come over here, I would love to know some things about you, about how you approach. I do have some things written out. Finn, I wanted to ask you first. How did you choose your poems? Do you have a favorite writer that you were looking for, or did you just kind of search through?
So I didn't have a lot of time to prepare because the class competition was like 2 weeks before the actual thing. So I was just looking, and I chose like 10 poems, and then I narrowed it down to 2. And then I asked my teacher which one I should do, and then he said a birthday. And so I just did that one. I like it though.
When in doubt, trust the teacher. I feel that.
And then the other one I did for the first competition, and I had a little more time to pick it, so it's more personal. So yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Finn. Hey, Isabel, I wanted to know how Poetry Out Loud has influenced you or like changed your view about poetry.
Well, I've always liked poetry. Ever since like freshman year, I wrote like a little silly poem, and that poem ended up being in the newspaper for our school. So I started writing my own, and then when I learned about Poetry Out Loud, it kind of influenced like how I can perform the author's view to other people. Not only from my perspective of how I see it personally, but also like from their perspective. Like if you really like time travel with the author and you like sit with it and you're like, that's how I like resonated with my poem and how that influenced me with the poems.
Cool. Yeah, that's such a good point, right? Because I mean, a poem, you could read it so many different ways, like literally and figuratively. So you kind of have to decide as a performer, like where to put the emphasis and how you're understanding it. That's awesome. Anissa, I was in your bio, I noticed that you mentioned that you are a musician and a spoken word artist. Am I right?
Yes,
Awesome.
yes, I am.
So how has Poetry Out Loud kind of like intersected with those interests? And also I'm interested if you have a favorite poet.
I don't have a favorite. My favorite poem would have to be myself.
Yeah.
If I had to say that. I do write a lot of my own poems. We're trying to get back to some open mics. But I don't know. I guess poetry and music, they're one and the same. You can use your poetry to write music. And I play the violin. Very beautiful. So, yeah. I don't know. They're just one and the same. Make the heart happy.
Awesome. But how, I mean, between writing your own poems and reading somebody else's poems, how has it kind of changed things for you at all?
Oh, it's definitely interesting because when you're writing your own poem, you have a certain sense of authenticity. It's original. It's you. But when you're reading it from like your point of view, but it's someone else's words, you kind of get a sense of, I'm reading the words, but how does it make me feel?
Nice. Yeah, I hear that. Cool. Awesome. Thanks, Anissa. I appreciate it. Michelle, I'm wondering about the poems you performed. How did you choose them, or what? How did it start for you?
How do I start this? So it started randomly on a Thursday. And they're all like, hey, guess what? There's this poetry thing. You guys should do it. This was my poetry class. They're like, hey, Mr. Holmes right there. He's all like, hey, you guys should do this. And I was just sitting there, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to do this. And, you know, I've always been a writer. I've always been a creative writer ever since I was in kindergarten. I was the one strange kid who was in the writing corner writing stories instead of playing with the dolls. They'd be like, hey, what's Michelle doing over there? I don't know. She's a nerd. Mm-hmm. But it was very interesting because the first one, You If No One Else by Tino Villanueva, was it was very interesting because my mentor, Dr. Forkum, was like, usually the first one you find is the one that's right for you. And I was like, I found this one first, so might as well perform this one. And it was very interesting because when I did eventually read the poem, it resided with me a lot. And I wasn't expecting to win the first round at all. But when it came down to it, she told me that the reason I won was because I internalized it and because I made it somewhat my own. And I had this interpretation, these images in my mind where this is me and these words describe me. These words literate something in my life that has always been inside me. And yeah, I've written my own forms of poetry, but I think Ghost Dance was chosen. It is a Native American poet, and I'm Hispanic. I'm not Native American, but I have always loved mythology and any form of stories. And I always joked, if I was ever back in the old days, I would definitely be a storyteller. And I've always been told that I'm a narrator, and I'm very observant. I don't tend to speak a lot about myself. I tend to speak about what's going on around me, everything I see, everything I do. Every little thing I do is for a reason, and I can describe that reason in full detail without just stopping.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And I can tell you that there's still a great need for storytellers in our contemporary world, too. And you absolutely are one. So thank you. And as the parent of a kid who would rather write stories than go play, and as a former one of those kids myself, I will say there's nothing wrong with that. All right. Mirren, I wanted to ask you, do you have plans for after high school? And do you plan on continuing to have like an engagement with poetry to some degree?
Certainly. After high school, I do plan on going into a career in astrophysics and computer science, but the performing arts have always been sort of something that I've carried along with me ever since I moved here. Back in the 5th grade, when I was introduced to our elementary school's band program, I immediately signed up. I was like, I want to do this. I want to participate. When I got to middle school, continued that. High school, I got into the performing arts like theater and eventually poetry. So it's something that's always been alongside me throughout my educational career and my educational path. And it's something I certainly want to continue once I'm out of high school, whether that is theater or writing poetry or participating in band or choir, anything, just in order to propagate that use of the performing arts to tell stories.
For sure. Thank you, man. That's awesome. Yeah. One thing I love about the world that y'all are moving into and making your own is that this idea that it has to be either or, this either or thinking, right? Of science or the arts is we're kind of finally getting past that, right? Where we understand that arts is a form of science and science requires the imagination. And so I think that's an excellent combo. Hey, Sam, I wanted to ask you, because I noticed in your bio you mentioned that you're working on a visual novel. And do you see a connection between that work and poetry?
I haven't really thought about it like that, but there is a lot of carefully choosing your words when it comes to differentiating different characters, and also internal monologue tends to be a lot more poetic than what other people are saying. So yeah, there is a little bit of a connection there. That's awesome.
What surprised you about participating in the competition?
That I liked poetry. I didn't... Sorry. I didn't have a great experience with poetry in middle school, but now I think I have a much greater appreciation for it, especially for ones that I just genuinely like.
Nice. That's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I'm interested in that too. The inner monologue and how that is very poetic. I agree. And last, but certainly not least, Maya, I wanted to ask, out of the poems you read, which one was your favorite and which one was your least favorite?
Well, I like both of them. They both have a different, the first one, truth is, I chose it because I feel like it's a poem that everybody can really relate to. And I wanted to choose poems that had meaning behind them rather than just choosing it just to perform it. So that first one, I feel like everybody can resonate with wanting to be somebody else or wanting to be a better version of themselves. So that really resonated with me, but I would say I probably lean more towards liking the second one, Invisible Children, because my future plans are to attend ASU in the fall for social work. And so anything that revolves around the foster system or foster kids or just like any social work in general, that really resonated with me, and it's somehow found a way into my life through all these different ways. So when I saw that poem, I was like, this is the one for me. I want to do this one. It has a very big meaning behind it.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you. Hey, y'all, thank you for letting me ask you questions. Round of applause for this incredibly well-spoken, talented, deep-thinking group of people. That's awesome. I love hearing the poems, obviously, but I love hearing where y'all are coming from because, like I said, without people, we wouldn't have poems in the first place. So that's where we're at. All right. I don't see Ren in the house, nor do I see him on the house. That means it's probably calculation is still happening. That would be my guess. All right. Cool. So, yeah, let's ask I want to ask more questions. Can I ask more questions? No? Have at it? All right, cool. I didn't ask any like favorite poet questions. That's like the most standard question, but I am actually interested to know. What's that? Oh, you answered that question. That's true. Anybody else favorite poets or poems that you like? I guess the Poetry Out Loud ones, but other poets that you or writers that you've been drawn to? I can just call on people, but I don't want to do that. Yeah, go for it.
Do I step up to the mic?
Yeah, please, just so that everybody can hear.
So when it comes to the question of like favorite poem, favorite poet, I can never come up with one answer. It just really depends on how I'm feeling at the moment. I will, however, say that one of my biggest appreciations comes from a poet that I was introduced to my sophomore year of high school, that being Maya Angelou. Her works were part of what sort of revitalized a love for poetry that I'd once had, that I lost throughout a mediocre experience with poetry during middle school. And so just being able to read her works and like I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, both the poem and the novel, both incredibly powerful works that resonate with me to this day.
Awesome. Yeah. I love, recognizing how we got away from poetry, but also how we come back to poetry, right? The poet Naomi Shihab Nye, who's an amazing artist, likes to quote one of her mentors, and the quote is, when people ask, how did you become a poet? He was fond of saying, that's actually the wrong question. The question is, when did you stop being one? And I find that resonates so much with being kids and growing up and kind of being having poems and that kind of sort of creative thinking being part of our world. And at some point, we turn away from that, right? And so it's cool to see what brings us back. All right, we're going to take a short DJ intermission while we get the scores calculated, and we will be right back with you to award some prizes. All right. I got the folder. Woo! All right. Something was said to me during the break that I think is absolutely true, and I've actually heard someone else say it as well, that I think we could pick any three of these poets and they would be a fantastic representatives of the entire group. Am I right? It was an amazing group. So thank you to all the performers for giving such compelling and entertaining performances. We hope that you've enjoyed being part of Poetry Out Loud program and that the experience of bringing a single poem into your daily life, into the lives of so many people, is the best kind of reward and will stay with you from time to time. Now you have a cool party trick. You can just recite a poem whenever it's just boom, you know? Poetry is a subjective experience, like I said at the top. Yet Poetry Out Loud is a competition, and so I'm going to announce the three winners, and I'll go third place, second place, first place, who will go on to represent Southern Arizona at the state finals competition, which again is on the 11th of March right here. But first, we're going to acknowledge all of the participants. Students, as you hear your name, please shake the judges' hands and see Kema and Sophie for your certificates. So, please, big round of applause for all our performers, including Finn Thompson from Flowing Wells High School. Isabel Turan from Saurita High School. Anissa Sanchez, Desert View High School. Michelle Ruiz, St. Augustine Catholic High School. Mirin Miranda, Rio Rico High School. Sam Mayer, the Gregory School. And Maya Akins from Combs High School. And thank you once again to our judges. When I was asked if I would be a judge or host, I said, yes, I will gladly host. Because I don't envy the job that you all had to do today. So thank you very much for your work. All right, representing Arizona, the Southern Arizona region and their schools at the Arizona State Finals competition. In third place, is proudly presented to Mirin Miranda. And in second place, Isabel Turan. And last but not least, the Arizona Poetry Out Loud Regionals. First place is proudly presented to Sam Mayer. That's right. Once again, thanks to Poetry Out Loud partners, Arizona Commission on the Arts and the Poetry Foundation, National Endowment for the Arts. One more time for Adrian, our DJ. One more time to our featured performer, Shirvana. And for our wonderful judges, thank you all so much. Poetry Center, thank you. It has been a pleasure to be here with you all today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Talk to each other, talk to these young people on the way out, pat them on the back, congratulate them. Thank you so much for coming. See you next time. And there's dessert outside. I mean, what more do you want?